Here we are again, moving on to another lesson. Hope you're enjoying your family day weekend and you've had some opportunity to get together with family and friends and maybe have a little bit of an outing or something. We actually had our 9-month-old granddaughter here yesterday, and for the very first time, she actually would stay in my arms without crying. So that was very exciting for me. And so we're just enjoying a relaxing weekend ourselves, and I hope you are as well. We're moving on to the lesson on cash. So we're kind of picking up where we kind of left off with the balance sheet, because we would have talked about cash and the balance sheet, how it kind of fits in with the balance sheet and the organization. But we're going to take a deeper dive in this lesson about cash. And the reason we're doing that is that all too often people pay way too much attention to the cash balance and ignore everything else that's there. And the other reason we're going to look at it is I don't know if you've heard the phrase, but sometimes you'll hear the phrase, and it's mentioned in the lesson, cash is king. But the question is it really? And so what does it mean to look at our cash balance? Far too often in a not-for-profit setting, we have too little cash. We're always looking for cash. We need more cash, which equates to more revenue. You know, if you think of a core situation where all you have is cartridges, if you don't have a family services or any other operation, and you have you have a large contributor to that, and they leave the congregation or they pass away, then it has a big impact. So you're always looking for cash. But there's an opposite problem sometimes, and that's having too much cash. And you might question that, and you might wonder about that. But if you think about what we are in the not-for-profit sector, we raise money in order to provide service or programming to some beneficiaries, to people that are in need in some way or another, whether you're running a men's shelter or it's a single mom's housing shelter, or it's a food bank or whatever. But we're typically raising money in order to help someone. And if it's seen that you have too much cash, then people start to question what it is you're actually doing and why are they actually giving you any money. So you got to constantly look at both sides about your cash balance. And there may be a good reason for having too much cash. Maybe you have a big program initiative coming up, or a building project or something like that, that you can support that, but you want to be ready to defend that and ready to talk about that. But when you're looking at your cash overall, it's very important to consider all of those other aspects. And when I say all those other aspects, it's everything on the balance sheet and everything on the income statement. Considering your sources of revenue. Are you heavily dependent on one source of revenue? As I just said, mentioned a core in cartridges, or if you're in a social center, maybe it's on a single fund or a single government funding, and you're always at risk of losing that or whatever. So it's looking at your sources of revenue. Is there a way to diversify those sources of revenue? Is there other ways to get revenue? Or is there another way to run my program where it doesn't cost as much money, so I can reduce my expenses and therefore I don't have as big a need for the cash I have? And looking at the balance sheet, we're going to go back to the balance sheet again. Am I billing the government for my services, but I'm not collecting it and it's in my accounts receivable? Or have I collected my GST refund? And or if I got too much money tied up and I haven't spent it, it's in my deferred revenue. So cash is one of those things that gets a lot of attention, but you need to make sure that you're always looking and asking the right questions when it comes to your cash balance. And if you're building up too much cash, why is that, and how can I spend it? How can I use it? What can I use it for? What are the opportunities around me in which I can use those funds to provide service? And if I have too little cash, how do you overcome that obstacle? And that's very difficult many times, requiring either decisions to find other sources of revenue or decisions in which you have to cut expenses, which often means cutting staffing positions or cutting services. Being a leader in a not-for-profit sector is a difficult task, and one that will be constantly challenging. And so I just encourage you to pay some attention to this one and think about this lesson. Think about your own cash balances, where you are, and think about the things that you need to think about as a leader. So I hope you enjoy the lesson. I hope it helps you as a leader and that you get something out of it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.